went to visit a friend of mine in the hospital recently. She's not a close friend, but someone I've known a while through my meditation center. Kamiko is 10 years older than I am in Japanese. She'd had cancer for several years, but seemed pretty stable until just a couple weeks earlier. Still, I'd heard she was keeping her spirits up. When I walked through the door to her room, she was propped up in bed wearing green hospital-issue pajamas, an IV port sticking out of her arm. The remains of her latest meal sat on a hospital tray hovering near the bed, giving off the odor of overdone broccoli. I didn't know what to say. "They treating you okay in here?" "Oh, yes," she said. "Food is good here. I eat a lot. I gain a lot of weight." She nodded, patting her belly. "That's good," I said, but my attention was drawn to something bobbing on her left front tooth, a whitish blob of cottage cheese mixed with broccoli. I tried not to look at it, but I have what is probably an unhealthy hyper-awareness of other people's teeth. I'll arrive at a friend's party, and when she greets me, immediately notice her teeth have that grayish zombie tinge from drinking red wine. Or, while talking with a teenage friend of my daughter's, I'll be distracted by an orange film coating his front teeth, wondering, "Dude, how long ago did you brush those?" A work friend of my husband's has a tooth that is twisted sideways, and I want to just reach in there and twist it the right way. And once, I was with this guy I was totally obsessed with. We were taking a walk at the park, and he turned to give me one of his beguiling little smiles that always left me completely unmoored. Except he had something in his teeth. He'd been eating a handful of trail mix, and there, wedged up against the gum line next to his right bicuspid, was a pale triangle of masticated cashew, like cashew spackle. And for a long, paralyzing moment, my brain wrestled to reconcile simultaneous competing forces of intense attraction and intense repulsion, like trying to contain matter and antimatter. Time expanded and collapsed on itself in quantum existential angst. I turned my head, silently willing the spackle to go away, but I said nothing. Even though that relationship ended years ago, my mind still occasionally flips through its scrapbook of him, stopping every so often to say, "Here, remember this?" I might get the time he went down on me in a motel room with figure skating playing in the background. Or I might get the cashew. You'd be surprised how often I get the cashew. So I'm trying not to fixate on the blob of cottage cheese on Kamiko's tooth, but because of her thick accent, I usually have to look right at her mouth to have the remotest chance of understanding her. And this is delicate because I know from mutual friends that she's self-conscious about her teeth. The front two are large and the right one sticks out, and she lost a couple on one side of her jaw in the wrong end of a bike versus car collision, giving her mouth a lopsided look. And then there's the black parts. Dark lines rim her teeth at the gums, coming together in dark places, in dark hollows in places where there should not be dark hollows in a mouth. I try not to stare, but I'm drawn to them like a little kid gawking at an amputee. So I've developed what I hope is a not staring attention on her mouth when I listen to her. I don't like this preoccupation with other people's teeth. Noticing something off makes me feel like an involuntary accomplice in their indignity, and I'm forced into the awkward position of deciding what to do. When I was little, my mom was always getting lipstick on her teeth, which stuck out a little because she never wore her retainer like she was supposed to when she was a teenager. My older sister would point it out. "Mom, lipstick," she'd say. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Mom would reply before rubbing the offending front teeth back and forth with a finger. "There, is that better?" And she'd pull her lips back like a horse in one of those joke photos. This always made me feel funny. Mom was the one who told us when we had our sweater on backwards or jelly on our cheeks. Unwittingly having lipstick on her teeth meant she wasn't the all-knowing figure I'd always thought she was. Calling attention to it seemed somehow cruel. I hated my own teeth. I had a huge overbite and such a big gap in front that if I half bit into an apple, it made a face, the two front teeth making sad clown eyes. There are very few photos of me pre-braces where my mouth is open. I'd force a closed-mouth smile whenever anyone took my picture. The couple times I didn't, I kicked myself as soon as I saw the prints. Oh, I look so stupid. I knew I should have kept my mouth shut. My parents got my sister braces when she was in 6th grade, so I figured that's when I'd get mine. But 6th grade came and went, and then 7th, 8th, 9th, and my parents never took me to the orthodontist. That's a lot of years of awkward, closed-mouth smiles. Finally, in the spring of 10th grade, I saw an orthodontist. He could fix my teeth, but I'd have to have 4 of them pulled to make room. Which is ironic because for as messed up as my teeth looked, they were remarkably healthy. I'd never even had a cavity. So my first trip to the dentist for anything other than a cleaning was for 4 extractions. I sat in the dentist chair as the motor whirred, raising me up and tipping me back. I tried to control my breathing under my knockoff JCPenney Oxford cloth shirt as I stared up at the bright lights and masked faces of the dentist and his assistant. He stuck his latexed fingers into my mouth, stretching my upper lip out so far it hurt, before jabbing a needle full of Novocaine next to the gum line of doomed tooth number 1. The sacrificial teeth were the 4th ones over on each side, top and bottom, like some ungodly dental killing field. "Count off. 1, 2, 3, 4. You, number 4, you're gone." He massaged my cheek to get the painkiller to absorb before reaching in with some contraption to grab onto the unsuspecting tooth, then a twist and a wrench. I did not feel pain, but I was not prepared for the pressure. My pulse rose as I reminded myself, breathe. The tooth was healthy, not willing to go quietly into that good night, holding on to the socket for dear life until it could resist no longer, suddenly relinquishing its grasp like an exhausted, shipwrecked sailor, losing its last grip on a floating mast. Oh, God. 1 down, 3 to go. By the time he was done and the chair whirred down, tipping me back upright, my face was swollen and I had 4 wads of gauze in 4 bloody sockets filling my mouth. But it was worth it, I thought. The rest of them will be straight. All those years, having teeth I was ashamed of made me acutely aware of everyone else's. Seeing something off makes me want to fix it, make it go away. So I'm in the hospital, supposedly being supportive, when all I really want to do is say, you've got this thing on your tooth. Yeah, like right there. Okay. All right, thanks. But I can't. For one thing, Kimiko is in one of her stream of consciousness modes, where you just have to try to catch as many words as you can, interjecting and when it seems appropriate. If I stop her, it will be obvious I haven't really been listening. And aren't I supposed to be better at this being present stuff by now, after all the meditation? And for another, if I say something, she will apologize, saying, "Oh, sorry." So I'm sitting there saying, while the blob transfers itself from tooth to lip to tongue as she talks. And now, since I've given up all internal pretext of paying attention, I notice more cottage cheesiness coating her upper teeth and nestling in the hollows. My brain starts frantically sending messages to my own tongue, willing the signal to somehow fire in hers, to do something to make it go away. At one point, I think I see a flickering of recognition in her face that her tongue has registered that there is something there, and I think, yes! But the flicker passes. 4 days later, she is dead. This woman had tumors in her breast, liver, and a lung, and I was fixated on her teeth. I got my braces off a week before high school graduation. 18 years later, at the age of 36, I was sitting in an orthodontist chair getting fitted for braces for the second time in my life. Because despite having 4 teeth pulled, religiously wearing my retainer, and eventually having a flat metal permanent retainer bonded to the back of my 2 front teeth, the gap kept coming back. The metal would break or pop off one tooth, and eventually I gave up until my mid-30s. I had hopes the new Invisaligns would be an option, but the doctor said no, so it was brackets and bands for another 2 years. I now have permanent retainers bonded to both my top and bottom teeth, and I also wear a removable retainer to bed every other night and will for the rest of my life. And I make sure to not miss a night, because if I do, I can feel my teeth straining against it as I snap it in. They say eyes are the windows of the soul. If so, I say teeth are the mirror of the soul. In them, I see reflected my preoccupation with fixing anything that makes me feel uncomfortable, and a woman endlessly trying to hold everything together.
Give it up for VAMP first-timer Louise Julig.